create an array in Java is very simple. In this case, we're going to start with an int array. So int type array. So I'm going to say int, and then I'm going to put these two square brackets as that. Okay, so if you just put a square bracket as you see there, that signifies that this is indeed an array. So in this case here, I like to put them closer to int and then put the name of the array we want to create. In this case, I'm going to say my array, and then I'm going to set things up here. So then to create the actual array, what we need to put is we need to actually put inside of braces like that. Okay. So this says that we're creating an array of type int, and to add the items, we have to put inside of curly braces. And here I'm going to add 1, and you have to say comma, because now we are creating another variable, if you will, or another bucket or another index. Put 3 or 33, 4, 12 as such. And then, of course, we finalize with a semicolon. So now we have an array which contains 1, 33, 4, and 12. Very good. So how do we then go about getting, for instance, the first item from our array? Well, simply, I'm going to say s out, and I'm going to say my array, of course, because that is the variable, if you will, right? Array. You can see here it's an array type, and even gives us a snapshot of what it contains. 1, 33, 4, and 12. And if I want to access anything from our array, I have to access through the index. How do I access through the index? Well, because it's an array, we still have to append the square brackets as such. Okay. And then I'm going to say pass in the index number. Remember, everything starts from 0. So if you want to get the first one here, it's not going to be 1. It has to be 0, because we are pointing to the index where our bucket resides. So in this case here, I'm going to say 0. That would say, okay, my array, we're passing in 0 inside of square brackets. That means we want the first item. So let's see if this works. Give it a run, and voila, you can see there is 1 there. Very good. Now, if we want to get the third item, so 1, 2, 3, you notice this is 0 index, 1 index, and 2 index. So I'm going to have to put 2 there. Quick run there, we should see number 4. If we want the last one, 0, 1, 2, 3, of course, that has to be 3. So the special thing that we need to remember here is that everything starts from 0, meaning the index, right? Because as we said before, this is index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, and so forth. So this would be an integer type array. Of course, we can do all other types as well. So I can say string, in this case, like that, and I can say names. And of course, I can come down here, and I'm going to put the curly braces there, and they are strings, therefore I need to pass string type. So I can say James, remember, put a comma, Anthony, another comma, Rodrigo, comma, Niraj, and so forth. Okay. The same thing will happen now if I want to access names. Say I want to access Anthony. I know it's going to be 0 index, 1 index, so I need to change this to names as such, and I want 0, 1 to get Anthony, and I should see Anthony if I run this. Let's see, and there we go, there is Anthony. Now if I try to add 23 here, you notice we have a problem. In fact, you can go ahead and hover over here. It's going to say required is a string and found int. Again, it goes back to that idea of Java that everything must be strongly typed, meaning if you are creating a string type array, you cannot add integers into that, nor can you add strings inside of an integer array. Okay, so we should have that ingrained in our brains by now, I hope. Very good. So we have that. Now, the other thing we can do is, because we know how to loop through things, right? We've learned the for loop. We can actually loop through our arrays. Simply, we're going to go ahead and say for, using the for loop here. We're going to create an int, right? Expression, our int here, declaration, int I, 0. And then I'm going to say I is less than, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, less than 4. Okay. And I'm going to say I plus plus. I've seen this before, and I can say s out. Let's see, items. I'm going to just go ahead and pass I like this, right? Save and run. We should see a count from item 0, 1, 2, 3, and there it is. However, this is a very simplistic version of it. We're not actually iterating through any of these arrays. So to iterate through any of these arrays, especially this first array here, we'll have to pass the actual array. So I'm going to say my array. And now because I want to iterate through and get items from my array here, right? Remember, to get stuff from my array, I have to call the name of the array and then pass the index. Well, each time we're looping through, we are going through the indexes, right? So we can pass I, because I will mean that we are iterating through. So the first time is 0. It's going to say my array at index 0. What it is 1. Goes through, shows the first item, number 1. Second time around, it's going to say I is 1 now. It's still less than 4. My array 1, index 1, is going to be 33, and so forth. Let's see how this works. Let's save this and run. And voila, we can see 1, 33, 4, and 12. So 1, 33, 4, and 12. So we are now able to iterate through our array. Very good. Now, what happens if all of a sudden I decided to add more numbers here? Something like this. Save and run. It still works fine, but you notice that it just stops at 12 because we said here we just want to show things until this condition here is no longer holding true. So we're going to iterate 4 times. So if it's 4 times, we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why we're just getting 12. Makes sense. However, we want to see everything in our array. Okay? We can come up here and count again. Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and change our condition to 6 here. At which point, if we run, we should be able to see everything up to 98, right? The last one. But this is not very dynamic, and it always requires us to make sure that this array that we're receiving, we created here, has the correct number, and we have to come back here, count, and see the length of the array. You see, arrays have length. What is the length of the array? Well, the length of the array is how many compartments or how many variables or how many indexes we have inside of the array. So this will be one compartment. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the length of this array at this point is 6. Okay? So there is index, meaning starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a very important distinction here. Index and length are totally different things. Index is just each item or each bucket inside of our array. So 0 bucket, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Now the length is how many items we have in our array. Okay, so we have 6 items, so that would be the length. Okay, now the beauty here, because it's an array, we actually can get the length of the array without having to count ourselves. Right? So here, to make our life much easier, and you should always do this, we can actually say my array dot, look at that, we have that length. So it goes and fetch the length of our array and gives that number to us. So now it's all automatic, meaning each time we go through the for loop, it doesn't matter how big this array is, it will always make sure to count until the length of the array is reached. Save this now and run. Of course, we're going to see the same thing, but now we know that we made it all dynamically. So we didn't have to worry about whether our array is smaller or bigger or have it to count. In fact, if we went back and say 6 as it was before, and remove the 6th element and run, we should have an error, right? So this error here is the Java-lang array index out of bounds exception. You will always see this. What this means is that, well, you said here that this array is supposed to be 6 items inside of them, but there's only 5. So I don't know what else to do because I'm out of bounds. Okay, very good. So let's say Command Z, we have that, and we're going to change that just to invoke the my array dot length. So it doesn't matter how many items we have here. In fact, I can put 90, 12. I can keep putting other numbers there. It will always work if we run because we now are safe because we said my array dot length. So it goes through incrementing everything and we are spitting out, so iterating through our array and passing in, of course, the I each time we go through and fetching each value in our array. So what I want you to do is to do the same thing we did here, but with our string array here that for names. So I want you to add more values, more names, and see if you can loop through and do what we did here, okay? Also remember that the most important thing here is my array.length. So every array has that property length that we can retrieve and get the value of our length, which makes it much easier. All right, go ahead and play around with this concept, and I'll see you in the next video.